All right, so here are the answers to those monitoring progress questions. So pause the video, make sure you got those correct. Okay, so let's look at the next example. So here's a quick vocab word that you guys need to know. When two or more roots of an equation are the same number, then that's called repeated roots. So that means that the equation has two roots that are the same number. Okay, so let's look at example number 2. So for part A, we have 2x plus 7 times 2x minus 7 equals 0. So again, we want to set each one of these equal to 0 because one of them has to be 0 if the whole thing equals 0. So we have 2x plus 7 equals 0 or 2x minus 7 equals 0. So we need to solve for 2x plus 7 equals 0. First, we want to get rid of the 7. So we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. We get 2x equals negative 7. Now to get the x by itself, we need to divide by 2. So you get x equals negative 7 divided by 2. For 2x minus 7, we want to add the 7 to both sides to get rid of it. So we get 2x equals positive 7. Then again, we want to divide by 2 to get x equals 7/2. Okay, so our answer is either x equals negative 7/2 or x equals positive 7/2. Okay, let's look at B. For B, we have x minus 1 squared equals 0. So remember, squared means we're multiplying something times itself. So this is where it means we're doing x minus 1 times x minus 1. So if we set each of those equal to 0, x minus 1 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. How would we solve that? We would add 1 to both sides, get x equals 1. Same thing for this one. So this is where we have repeated roots. Right? Both of them are equal to 1. So we have a repeated root. Okay, and lastly, we have part C. So for C, we have x plus 1 times x minus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. So this time we have three things multiplying, right? We have A times B times C equals 0. Well, the zero factor property still applies because one of these has to be 0 for the whole thing to be 0, right? Either A equals 0, B equals 0, or C equals 0. So again, we're going to set each one of these factors equal to 0. So if we solve for x plus 1, we would subtract 1 from both sides to get x equals negative 1. Then for x minus 3, we're going to add 3 to both sides, get x equals 3. For x minus 2, we'll add 2 and get x equals 2. So either x equals negative 1 or 3 or 2. Okay, now I want you guys to pause your video and try these monitoring progress questions. And then once you try them, you can unpause and check to see if you got them correct. All right, so here are those answers. So pause your video, make sure you got those correct, and then move on to the next question. So this last part is saying to solve a polynomial equation using the zero product property, you may need to factor the polynomial so that you can get it into its factored form. So remember, we need to check for our GCF before we factor. So for example number 3, all we're going to do is factor out the greatest common factor, just as a quick review, from 4x to the 4th plus 24x cubed. So if we're looking between 4 and 24, what is our GCF? Well, that would be 4, right? 4 goes into both 4 and 24. And if we're looking at x to the 4th and x cubed, our GCF would be x cubed, right? They both have 3 x's. So if our GCF is 4x cubed, remember that means we need to divide it out. So we have 4x to the 4th plus 24x cubed. We're going to divide both sides by 4x cubed. Okay, so when we pull our 4 out, what's left? 4x cubed. What's left? Well, 4 divided by 4 cancels out to be 1. X to the 4th divided by x cubed is going to be x. And then we have 24 divided by 4. Well, that will be 6. And our x cubes are going to cancel out. So we're left with 4x cubed times x plus 6. So again, try this monitoring progress question, factor out the greatest common factor, and then at the beginning of the next video, I'll give you the answer.